David Carson sat in his home office, staring at yet another resume on his computer screen. He rubbed his tired eyes and glanced at the clock. It was almost midnight, and he still had 3 more video conferences scheduled for tomorrow morning. Being the founder of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country meant his calendar was always packed. But lately, there was something else taking up even more of his mental space than business deals and investor meetings. His 6-year-old daughter, Lily Dot. It had been 2 years since his wife passed away. 2 years of trying to figure out how to be both a father and a mother to a little girl who still asked when Mommy was coming home. 2 years of failed nanny attempts, each one leaving faster than the last. Some couldn't handle Lily's nightmares. Others couldn't deal with David's unpredictable schedule. One had even stolen from them, which made David install security cameras throughout the entire house. He heard small footsteps padding down the hallway. His office door creaked open, and there stood Lily in her pink pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Can't sleep again, sweetheart?" David asked, opening his arms. She ran to him and climbed onto his lap. "I had another bad dream." David held her close, feeling his heart break a little more. This happened 3 or 4 times a week now. The child psychologist said it was normal for kids who'd lost a parent, but that didn't make it any easier to watch. "How about we get you some warm milk?" he suggested. "Will you stay with me until I fall asleep?" "Of course, baby girl. Always." As he carried her back to her room, David made a decision. Tomorrow, he would hire someone. Anyone. The last nanny had quit 3 weeks ago, and he'd been trying to manage everything himself. It wasn't working. His company was suffering. Lily was suffering. He was barely holding it together. The next morning, David had interviews scheduled with 3 candidates. The first woman arrived in an expensive suit and spent the entire interview talking about her credentials and connections to other wealthy families. She barely looked at Lily once. The second candidate seemed nice enough, but got visibly uncomfortable when Lily accidentally spilled juice on her shoes. David showed her out politely. By the time the third candidate arrived, David's hope was running thin. He opened the door to find a woman in her mid-30s, with kind eyes and a genuine smile. She wore simple clothes and carried a worn leather bag. "Hello, Mr. Carson. I'm Nicole Harper. Thank you for seeing me today." There was something immediately calming about her presence. Her handshake was firm but warm. When Lily peeked around the corner, Nicole knelt down to the child's eye level. "And you must be Lily. I've heard wonderful things about you. Is that a rabbit you've got there?" Lily nodded shyly, hugging her stuffed animal tighter. "He's very handsome." "What's his name?" "Mr. Hops," Lily whispered. "That's a perfect name. You know, I had a rabbit just like that when I was your age." For the first time in months, David saw his daughter's face light up with interest. They moved to the living room, and what was supposed to be a formal interview turned into a comfortable conversation. Nicole had worked with children for over 12 years. She had a degree in early childhood education and had recently moved to the area. Her references were impeccable, but it wasn't her resume that impressed David. It was the way she listened when Lily spoke, the way she asked thoughtful questions, the way she seemed genuinely interested in getting to know his daughter as a person, not just as a job responsibility. "I believe children need stability and routine," Nicole explained. "But they also need someone who understands that every day won't be perfect. Some days are hard, especially when you're dealing with loss. I'm not here to replace anyone. I'm here to support and care for Lily in whatever way she needs." David felt something he hadn't felt in a long time during these interviews. "Hope, when can you start?" he asked. Nicole's face broke into a warm smile. "I can start tomorrow, if that works for you." That evening, after Nicole had left, David updated the security system. He'd learned his lesson with the previous nanny who'd stolen jewelry and cash. Every room in the house now had cameras except the bathrooms and Nicole's room, which would be the guest suite on the second floor. He told himself it was just a precaution, a way to make sure Lily was safe when he couldn't be there. Nicole started the next day, and the change was immediate. She arrived early, prepared with activities and meal plans. She got Lily ready for school without any tears or arguments. When David came home that evening, he found them in the kitchen baking cookies together. Flour was everywhere, and both of them were laughing. "Daddy, look. We made chocolate chip cookies. Nicole taught me how to measure ingredients." David couldn't remember the last time he'd heard such pure joy in his daughter's voice. Over the next few weeks, life settled into a new rhythm. Nicole was everything David could have hoped for. She was patient, creative, and seemed to genuinely love spending time with Lily. His daughter's nightmares became less frequent. She started smiling more, laughing more, even eating better. But David started noticing something else. It began innocently enough. He'd check the security cameras from his office sometimes, just to see how things were going at home. That's when he noticed Nicole would step outside into the garden several times a day to make phone calls. She'd look around first, almost nervously, before pulling out her phone. The conversations seemed intense. Sometimes she'd pace back and forth, running her hand through her hair in what looked like stress or frustration. Then there were the packages. UPS and FedEx deliveries would arrive addressed to Nicole. She'd accept them quickly and immediately take them to her car instead of bringing them inside. Once, David came home early and saw her loading several boxes into her trunk, glancing at the house as if checking whether anyone was watching. When he asked Lily about their days together, everything sounded perfect. They did art projects, went to the park, read books. But Lily mentioned something that stuck with David. "Sometimes Miss Nicole looks really sad," Lily said one night at dinner. "When she thinks I'm not looking, her eyes get all watery like she's going to cry." David's protective instincts kicked into high gear. Who was Nicole really? What was she hiding? Those phone calls, the packages, the sadness. Was she in some kind of trouble? Was his daughter safe? He told himself he was being paranoid. Nicole had perfect references. Background checks had come back clean. But he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something she wasn't telling him. Something big. That night, David sat in his office with multiple camera feeds open on his computer screen. He watched Nicole tuck Lily into bed, reading her a story with genuine tenderness. After Lily fell asleep, Nicole sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, gently brushing hair from the child's forehead. Then she stood, walked to the window, and pulled out her phone. David switched to the outdoor camera feed. He zoomed in, trying to read her lips, her body language. The conversation lasted nearly 20 minutes. Nicole wiped her eyes twice. When she hung up, she stood there in the darkness for a long moment. Her shoulders slumped as if carrying the weight of the world. David closed his laptop, his mind racing. Tomorrow, he decided, he would start digging deeper. He needed to know the truth. For Lily's sake, he told himself. But deep down, there was something else driving his curiosity. Nicole had brought light back into his daughter's life, and he needed to understand why someone capable of such kindness seemed to be carrying such a heavy burden. David found himself doing something he never thought he'd do. He was spying on his own employee. It started small, just checking the security cameras a bit more often than usual, watching Nicole's movements throughout the day. He felt guilty about it, but every time he thought about stopping, he'd remember those secretive phone calls in the garden, the mysterious packages, the sadness Lily had mentioned. On Monday morning, David pretended to leave for work as usual. He kissed Lily goodbye, grabbed his briefcase, and walked to his car. But instead of driving to the office, he parked down the street and pulled up the security camera app on his phone. Nicole went through her morning routine with Lily just like always. They had breakfast together, played a game, then got ready for a trip to the park. Everything seemed perfectly normal. But then, right before they left, Nicole received a phone call. David watched as her entire face changed. The smile disappeared. She stepped into the hallway, speaking quietly but urgently. Her free hand was pressed against her forehead, and even through the camera, David could see the tension in her shoulders. The call lasted less than 2 minutes, but when it ended, Nicole stood there for a long moment, taking deep breaths like she was trying to compose herself. Then she put the smile back on, walked into the living room, and asked Lily if she was ready to go feed the ducks. David sat in his car, his gut churning with unease. Something was definitely wrong. But what? Over the next few days, he noticed more patterns. Nicole would check her phone constantly, sometimes every few minutes. She'd start to say something, then stop herself. Once, while helping Lily with a puzzle, Nicole's phone rang, and she actually flinched. She let it go to voicemail. "Aren't you going to answer it?" Lily had asked innocently. "It's not important, sweetie," Nicole had replied, but her voice was tight. "You're what's important right now." David also noticed that Nicole rarely talked about herself. Whenever Lily asked questions about Nicole's life, she'd give brief answers and quickly change the subject. Where did she live before? "Oh, not far from here." Did she have any family? She'd smile sadly and say that was a long story for another day. On Thursday afternoon, another package arrived. David happened to be working from home that day. He heard the doorbell and watched from his office window as Nicole signed for a medium-sized box. She looked at the label, and for just a second, her composure cracked. She closed her eyes, holding the box against her chest like it contained something precious. Or heartbreaking. Then she quickly carried it to her car. David waited until she came back inside and made a decision that made him feel like the worst kind of person. But he had to know. That evening, after Nicole had gone to her room for the night and Lily was asleep, he went outside to Nicole's car. It was locked, obviously. He couldn't see inside because of the tinted windows. He stood there in his own driveway, feeling ridiculous and invasive. What was he doing? Nicole was the best thing that had happened to Lily in 2 years. Why was he so determined to find something wrong? Because people always have secrets, a voice in his head whispered. And secrets in your home, around your daughter, are dangerous. The next morning, David made another call. He contacted his head of security at the company, a former detective named Frank Mitchell. "I need you to look into someone for me," David said quietly, closing his office door even though he was alone. "Sure thing, Mr. Carson. Who are we checking out?" "My daughter's nanny, Nicole Harper." There was a pause on the other end. "I thought you already ran a background check before hiring her?" "I did. Everything came back clean. But I need more. Where she goes on her days off, who she talks to, what her situation really is." Frank was quiet for a moment. "With all due respect, sir, are you sure about this? If she finds out you're having her followed, that could create some real problems, legally and otherwise." "I know," David said, rubbing his temples, "but something's not right. I can feel it. I just need to know my daughter is safe." "Understood. I'll be discreet. Give me a few days." David hung up feeling worse than before. This was crossing a line. He knew that. But the alternative, not knowing what Nicole was hiding, felt even more dangerous. That weekend was Nicole's day off. She left Saturday morning wearing jeans and a simple jacket, carrying her usual worn leather bag. David told Lily they were going to have a daddy-daughter day, which thrilled her. Even though she asked twice if Miss Nicole was okay, because she'd seemed quieter than usual that morning. While Lily watched her favorite cartoons, David tracked Nicole's car using the method Frank had suggested. A small GPS device, completely legal for tracking your own property if you had reasonable suspicion. Nicole's car was registered to the address she'd listed on her application. The tracker showed Nicole driving across town to a neighborhood David didn't know well. It wasn't dangerous, but it wasn't wealthy either. Small houses, older cars, chain-link fences. She stayed there for 3 hours. David tried to focus on Lily. They made pancakes together, played board games, went to the playground, but his mind kept drifting back to that little dot on the map, sitting still in that unfamiliar neighborhood. What was Nicole doing there? On Monday, Frank called with preliminary information. "So here's what I've got so far," Frank said. Nicole Harper, 35 years old, originally from about 2 hours north of here. She moved to the area 8 months ago. Before that, she worked at a private school for 5 years. Excellent reputation, no red flags. But here's the interesting part. She's working multiple jobs. What? David sat up straighter in his chair. Yeah, in addition to working for you during the day, she's doing online tutoring 3 nights a week. Math and English, mostly for high school kids. And on weekends, she works at a senior care facility. 12-hour shifts. David's mind raced. That's insane. She's with Lily 9 hours a day, 5 days a week. If she's working nights and weekends too, when does she sleep? That's what I wondered. There's more, though. The address you have for her on file? It's a small apartment. But here's the thing. On her days off, she's not going there. She's going to a house across town. I'm still working on finding out who lives there. Could it be a boyfriend? Family? Maybe. I'll know more in a couple days. I'm also trying to find out why someone with her credentials is working herself to death. Something's going on, Mr. Carson. Whether it's something you need to worry about, I can't say yet. After hanging up, David sat in silence for a long time. Nicole was working 3 jobs. Why? She was clearly educated and talented. She could probably make decent money with just one good position. Why was she pushing herself so hard? That evening, David came home to find Nicole helping Lily with a school project about families. They'd made a poster with drawings and photos. Lily had drawn their small family, and Nicole had helped her add decorations and color. "Look, Daddy, Miss Nicole helped me make it beautiful." David looked at the poster, at his daughter's proud smile, and Nicole's tired but genuine expression. He saw the dark circles under Nicole's eyes that she tried to hide with makeup. The way she moved a bit slower than usual, like her whole body ached. "It's wonderful, sweetheart," he said softly. Then, looking at Nicole, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Nicole's face went carefully neutral. "Of course." They stepped into the kitchen while Lily admired her project. David poured 2 glasses of water, trying to find the right words. "You've been amazing with Lily," he started. "I can't thank you enough for what you've done for our family." "She's an incredible little girl," Nicole said. "It's truly my pleasure, but I have to ask, are you okay? You seem tired lately, more than usual." Nicole's guard went up immediately. He could see it in the way she straightened her shoulders, the polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm fine, Mr. Carson. Just been a bit of a busy week, that's all. If you ever need anything," David pressed gently, "or if there's something going on that's affecting you, I want you to know you can talk to me." For just a second, he saw something flash across her face. Hope, maybe, or desperation. But then it was gone, replaced by that professional mask she wore. "I appreciate that, really, but I'm okay. I promise to always give Lily my very best." She excused herself after that, saying she needed to prepare things for tomorrow. David watched her go, more convinced than ever that Nicole Harper was carrying a burden too heavy for one person. And he was determined to find out what it was. Frank called David on Wednesday afternoon with news that changed everything. "I've got answers for you," Frank said. "And Mr. Carson, I think you're going to want to sit down for this." David closed his laptop and leaned back in his office chair. "I'm listening. The house Nicole visits every week?" "It belongs to her. Well, technically she's renting it, but she's lived there for the past 8 months. Small 2-bedroom place in a working-class neighborhood. But she gave me a different address when I hired her. That's her apartment. She keeps it for appearances, I think. Probably didn't want you knowing about the house because of what's in it." Frank paused. "She has a son, Mr. Carson, 14 years old. His name is Tyler." David felt like the air had been knocked out of his lungs. "A son? Why would she hide that?" "That's where it gets complicated. The kid is sick, really sick." "I did some digging into medical records, which wasn't easy and probably wasn't entirely legal, so I'm not going to tell you how I got this information. But Tyler has a serious heart condition. He's needed surgery for over a year now, but insurance denied the claim. They're calling it experimental treatment." David's hands gripped the armrests of his chair. "How much does the surgery cost?" "Around $400,000. Maybe more with all the follow-up care." "And those packages she's been receiving?" "Medical supplies. Medications, monitoring equipment, things to manage his symptoms while they wait. The phone calls are to doctors, insurance companies, medical billing departments. She's been fighting with them for months, trying to get them to cover it." David sat in stunned silence. All this time, he'd been suspicious of Nicole, imagining she might be involved in something dangerous or dishonest. Instead, she was a mother desperately trying to save her son's life. "The 3 jobs make sense now," David said quietly. "Yeah, she's trying to raise the money herself. But at the rate she's going, even working herself to death, it would take her years. And from what I understand, the kid doesn't have years. He needs this surgery soon." After hanging up, David couldn't focus on work. He kept thinking about Nicole, carrying that weight every single day. Coming to his house, smiling at his daughter, being patient and kind and wonderful, all while knowing her own child was getting sicker. All while working 3 jobs and still being nowhere close to the money she needed. He thought about the times he'd seen her eyes water, the phone calls where she'd looked so stressed, the packages she'd hidden in her car because she couldn't risk him asking questions. She'd been protecting her job, her income, one of the 3 lifelines she was clinging to. That night, David couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about his own daughter, about how he'd felt when his wife was dying, and there was nothing he could do. That helplessness, that fear. Nicole was living with that every single day, and she was facing it alone. On Saturday, David did something impulsive. He told Lily they were going for a drive, just to get some ice cream and explore a new neighborhood. He drove to the address Frank had given him. The house was small, but well maintained. The lawn was mowed. Flowers grew in neat beds along the front path. A basketball hoop hung over the garage, though it looked like it hadn't been used in a while. David parked across the street, feeling like a stalker, but unable to stop himself. He saw Nicole's car in the driveway. Through the front window, he could see movement inside. Then the front door opened, and Nicole stepped out onto the porch. She was talking to someone still inside. "I'll be back in 3 hours, okay? Mrs. Chun is right next door if you need anything. Keep your phone charged." "Mom, I'm fine. Stop worrying so much." The voice was young male, trying to sound strong. "I know, baby. But humor me anyway." A teenage boy appeared in the doorway. He was thin, too thin, with dark circles under his eyes that matched his mother's. He wore a t-shirt and sweatpants. And even from across the street, David could see he moved carefully. Like everything took effort, Nicole hugged him gently, kissed his forehead, then hurried to her car. David ducked down as she drove past, heading toward the senior care facility where she'd spend the next 12 hours on her feet. When her car disappeared around the corner, David sat up. He watched the boy, Tyler, move back inside slowly. The way he held his hand to his chest, the way he had to stop and rest halfway through closing the door. David's eyes burned with unshed tears. This was why Nicole worked herself to exhaustion. This was why she hid packages and made desperate phone calls. This was her whole world, and it was slipping away while she fought with everything she had to hold on. "Daddy, why are we sitting here?" Lily asked from the back seat. "I thought we were getting ice cream." "We are, sweetheart. I just had to see something first." "What did you need to see?" David looked at his daughter in the rearview mirror. "I needed to understand what real courage looks like." That evening, David made phone calls. He contacted the best cardiac surgeons in the country. He pulled medical files that Frank had gathered. He learned everything he could about Tyler's condition and what he needed. The surgery was possible. It had been done successfully before, despite insurance companies calling it experimental. The success rate was good. Tyler could have a normal life if he got the treatment he needed, and David could make that happen with a single check. On Monday morning, David asked Nicole if they could talk after Lily went to bed. He saw the fear flash across her face, that instant assumption that she was about to be fired. She agreed with a quiet, "Of course, Mr. Carson." The day felt endless. David went through meetings mechanically, his mind racing with how to approach the conversation. Nicole went through her routine with Lily, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. She knew something was coming. After dinner, after bath time, after stories and tucked-in blankets and goodnight kisses, David found Nicole in the kitchen cleaning up. She turned when he entered, and he could see her bracing herself. "Please, sit down," David said gently. Nicole sat at the kitchen table, her hands folded in front of her, trying to look calm. But David could see the slight tremor in her fingers. He sat across from her and took a deep breath. "I need to tell you something, and I need you to let me finish before you say anything. Can you do that?" She nodded, her face pale. "I've been watching you," David began. "The security cameras, I've been checking them more than I should. I saw the phone calls, the packages, the way you've been carrying something heavy. And I was worried. Not just for Lily's safety, but for you." Nicole's eyes widened, but she stayed quiet. "So I had someone look into your background, deeper than the initial check." He saw her flinch, saw tears start to form in her eyes. "I know about Tyler. I know about his condition. I know about the insurance denial and the surgery he needs. I know you're working 3 jobs trying to raise money that you'll never be able to save in time." A tear rolled down Nicole's cheek. She started to stand, started to speak, but David held up his hand. "Please, let me finish." He waited until she sat back down. "I also know something else. Something you probably don't know I know." Nicole looked confused through her tears. "My wife, before she got sick, she volunteered at a community center. She helped students apply for college scholarships. You were one of those students, weren't you? 18 years ago?" Nicole's hands flew to her mouth. Fresh tears streamed down her face. "How did you—" "I recognized you from her photos in the house. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't want you to think I was using that connection to get the job. I needed this position because I'm good at it, not because of something that happened years ago." "My wife helped you," David said, his own voice thick with emotion. "And now you've helped my daughter in ways I can't even express. You brought light back into her life, into our lives." Nicole was crying openly now. "Mr. Carson, I'm so sorry." I should have told you about Tyler from the beginning. I was afraid you'd think I couldn't handle the job, or that I'd be distracted or unreliable. I needed this income so badly. Please don't fire me. I'll work harder, I promise. Nicole, David interrupted gently. I'm not firing you. I'm trying to tell you that I want to help. Nicole stared at David like she couldn't quite process what he just said. She wiped at her tears with shaking hands, her breath coming in short gasps. Help? She repeated. I don't understand. David leaned forward, his voice steady and sincere. I want to pay for Tyler's surgery. All of it. The operation, the hospital stay, the follow-up care. Whatever he needs. The silence that followed was deafening. Nicole just sat there, frozen, her eyes wide with disbelief. Then, slowly, she began shaking her head. No, she whispered. No, I can't. I can't accept that. Nicole, you don't understand. She stood up abruptly, pacing across the kitchen. That's not just help. That's $400,000. Maybe more. That's life-changing money. I can't take that from you. I won't. Why not? David asked calmly. Because it's charity. Nicole's voice cracked. Because I've worked my entire life to stand on my own 2 feet. Because accepting that kind of money from my employer would make me feel like I'm taking advantage of you. Like everything I've done here was just to get something from you. Is that what you think this is about? What else could it be about? Nicole turned to face him, tears still streaming down her face. You found out I'm desperate, and you feel sorry for me. That's pity, Mr. Carson, and I can't build my son's life on pity. David stood up too, his own emotions rising to the surface. You think I'm doing this out of pity? You think that's what this is? What else? It's gratitude. David's voice was louder now, filled with a passion that surprised even him. Nicole, do you have any idea what you've done for my daughter? For me? 3 months ago, Lily was having nightmares 4 times a week. She barely ate. She barely smiled. I was drowning, trying to be a father and run a company and deal with my own grief. And I was failing at all of it. Nicole stood still, listening. Then you walked into our lives, David continued, his voice softer now. And everything changed. Lily laughs again. She's excited about life. She talks about the future. Last week, she told me she wants to be a teacher when she grows up, just like Miss Nicole. Do you know how long it's been since I've heard her talk about the future? I love Lily, Nicole said quietly. She's an amazing child. But that's my job. That's what you pay me for. No. David shook his head firmly. You can't pay someone to care the way you care. You can't put a price on the way you've poured your heart into my daughter's healing. And you want to talk about taking advantage? Nicole, you've been working 3 jobs, running yourself into the ground, and still showing up here every morning with a smile and more patience and love than Lily has seen since her mother died. I needed the income. You could have been just okay at this job and kept the income. But you weren't just okay. You were extraordinary. You are extraordinary. David took a step closer. And here's what I can't get past. My wife helped you once. 1 scholarship, 1 chance, and you took it and built a whole life. You got your education. You've helped countless children. You've raised a son on your own. You turned that 1 act of kindness into something beautiful. Nicole's hands were pressed to her mouth, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Now you're giving Lily that same gift, David said. You're helping her build a future out of grief. And you ask me why I want to help your son? Because that's what kindness does, Nicole. It ripples outward. It comes back. My wife planted something years ago, and now it's grown into this moment right here. I don't know what to say, Nicole whispered. Say yes. Let me do this. Not as your employer. Not out of pity. But as someone whose family has been saved by your kindness. As someone who has the means to help and would regret it for the rest of his life if he didn't. Nicole sank back into her chair, covering her face with her hands. Her whole body shook as years of stress and fear and exhaustion poured out. David grabbed a box of tissues and set it in front of her, then sat down and waited quietly. When she finally looked up, her face was red and tear-stained. But there was something else there, too. A flicker of hope that she'd been too afraid to let herself feel. Tyler's been sick for 2 years, she said, her voice hoarse. 2 years of watching him get weaker. Of seeing him give up basketball, then regular school, then even just walking around the block. He tries to be brave for me. He tells me he's fine. But I see him holding his chest when he thinks I'm not looking. I hear him struggling to breathe at night. David felt his own throat tighten. The doctors say without surgery, he has maybe another year. Maybe less. Nicole's hands twisted the tissue in her lap. Every day I wake up terrified that today might be the day I lose him. And every night I lie awake doing math in my head, trying to figure out how to save him faster. But the numbers never work. They never add up in time. They don't have to anymore, David said gently. Why would you do this? Nicole asked, looking directly at him. Really? Tell me the real reason. David thought about it for a moment, trying to put into words what he'd been feeling. When my wife was dying, I would have given every penny I had to save her. All the money in the world, and it couldn't buy her more time. It couldn't fix what was wrong. I had all this wealth, all this success, and it was completely useless when it mattered most. He paused, his voice thick with emotion. But Tyler can be saved. The surgery exists. The doctors know how to do it. The only thing standing between your son and a full life is money. And I have money. It's just sitting there, making more money, and what's the point of any of it if I can't use it to save a child's life? You don't even know him, Nicole said. I know his mother. I know she's the kind of person who works 3 jobs and still shows up with enough love and patience to heal a grieving child. I know she's the kind of person my wife saw potential in 18 years ago. That tells me everything I need to know about what kind of person Tyler will become if we give him the chance. Nicole closed her eyes, and David could see the internal battle playing out across her face. Pride versus hope. Independence versus acceptance. Fear of obligation versus love for her son. If I say yes, she finally whispered, it doesn't change anything here. I'm still your employee. I still do my job. I don't want special treatment. Of course not. And I pay you back. I don't know how long it will take, but I pay you back every cent. David started to argue, but Nicole held up her hand. That's the only way I can accept this. I need to know it's a loan, not charity. Even if it takes me the rest of my life, I pay it back. David wanted to tell her that wasn't necessary, that he'd never expect repayment. But he could see in her eyes that this was about more than money. It was about dignity, about being able to look at herself in the mirror, about teaching her son that they didn't take handouts, even in their darkest hour. Okay, he agreed. We'll draw up a loan agreement. No interest, and you can pay it back when Tyler is healthy, and you're not working yourself to death. No interest is still too generous. It's my loan. I set the terms. David managed a small smile. Take it or leave it. For the first time that evening, Nicole smiled too. It was watery and fragile, but it was real. You're a stubborn man, Mr. Carson, so I've been told. He pulled out his phone. I've already been in touch with some cardiac surgeons. The best one in the country is Dr. Patricia Williams at Cedar Ridge Medical Center. She's performed this exact surgery successfully dozens of times. I took the liberty of having Tyler's medical files sent to her office. She's reviewed his case and says he's a perfect candidate. Nicole's hand flew to her chest. You did all that already? I've had a few days to think about this. Dr. Williams can see Tyler this Friday for an evaluation. If everything looks good, they can schedule surgery within 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Nicole's voice was barely audible. I've been trying to make this happen for over a year, and you did it in days? I made some calls, pulled some strings. One of the benefits of having more money than sense. David reached across the table and gently took her hand. Your son is going to be okay, Nicole. We're going to make sure of it. Nicole broke down again, but this time the tears were different. They were tears of relief, of hope, of the overwhelming weight of fear finally lifting. David sat with her, not rushing her, not trying to fix it, just being present while she let herself feel everything she'd been holding back for so long. Thank you, she finally managed to say. Thank you doesn't feel like enough, but thank you. You've already thanked me, David said. Every morning when you make my daughter smile. Every time you help her feel safe and loved. You've been thanking me in ways that matter more than words. They sat in the kitchen for another hour, talking about Tyler, about the surgery, about what came next. Nicole told David stories about her son, about how he loved astronomy and wanted to be an engineer, about how he'd been so sick for so long that he'd almost forgotten what it felt like to just be a normal teenager. He's going to get to be normal again, David assured her. He's going to play basketball and go to school and do all the things 14-year-olds should do. When Nicole finally left to go home, David sat alone in his kitchen, feeling something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Purpose. Real purpose. Not building another company or making another $1 billion, but actually changing someone's life in a way that mattered. He pulled out his phone and looked at a photo of his late wife. I think you'd approve of this, he whispered to her image. I think you'd say this is what the money is really for. And somehow, in the quiet of that moment, he felt like she was smiling. Friday came faster than Nicole expected. She'd barely slept all week, caught between excitement and terror. What if the surgeon said Tyler wasn't a good candidate after all? What if there were complications they hadn't considered? What if she let herself hope and it all fell apart? David had insisted on driving them to the appointment. When he pulled up to Nicole's house that morning, he saw her standing on the porch with Tyler. The boy was taller than David expected, but thin and pale. He held onto the porch railing as he walked down the steps, moving carefully, like each breath took effort. Tyler, this is Mr. Carson, Nicole said, her voice tight with nerves. He's the one I've told you about. Tyler extended his hand, and David shook it gently. The boy's grip was weak, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. Thank you for what you're doing, sir. I know it's a lot. My mom says we're going to pay you back, but I want you to know I'm grateful anyway. David felt a lump form in his throat. This kid was 14, seriously ill, and still worried about expressing gratitude properly. You don't need to thank me, Tyler. Just focus on getting better. The drive to Cedar Ridge Medical Center took 40 minutes. Lily had wanted to come, but David thought it was better to let Nicole and Tyler have this moment. In the back seat, Nicole held her son's hand, squeezing it every few minutes like she needed to make sure he was still there. That Dr. Williams was exactly what they needed. She was in her 50s with kind eyes and a direct manner that put them at ease immediately. She examined Tyler, looked at all his test results, and asked him questions about his symptoms. Tyler answered honestly, not trying to downplay how bad things had gotten. Well, Dr. Williams said finally, I've seen worse cases than yours, and they all did beautifully. You're young, which works in your favor. Your heart is damaged, but it's not beyond repair. "We can fix this, Tyler." Nicole made a sound that was half sob, half laugh. Tyler just nodded, like he was afraid to believe it. "The surgery will take about 6 hours," Dr. Williams continued. "You'll be in the hospital for about a week, and several months of recovery at home. No basketball for a while, but eventually, you should be able to do everything a normal teenager does." "Everything?" Tyler asked, his voice small and hopeful. "Everything? Run, play sports, go to college, live a full life. This isn't a temporary fix. Once we repair the damage and you heal up, you'll be good as new." Tyler's eyes filled with tears. He'd been sick for so long that a normal life seemed like an impossible dream. Now someone was telling him it could be real. They scheduled the surgery for 2 weeks out. On the drive home, Tyler was quiet, staring out the window. Nicole kept looking back at him, her own eyes red from crying. "You okay, honey?" she asked. "I'm scared," Tyler admitted, "but also relieved." "Is that weird?" "Not weird at all," David said from the driver's seat. "It means you're ready to fight for your life. That takes courage." The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation. David insisted that Nicole take time off to be with Tyler. He hired a temporary nanny for Lily, though his daughter wasn't happy about it. "Why can't Miss Nicole be here?" Lily asked for the third time. David sat down with his daughter and decided it was time to tell her the truth. "Miss Nicole has a son who's very sick. He needs an operation to make his heart better. She needs to be with him right now." Lily's eyes went wide. "Miss Nicole has a son? Why didn't she tell me?" Sometimes grown-ups keep things private when they're scared or worried. "But he's going to have surgery soon, and then he'll get better. Can I meet him? Can I make him a card?" David smiled. "I think he'd really like that." Lily spent the entire afternoon making a card covered in hearts and stars. She drew pictures of Tyler playing basketball, even though she'd never met him. "So he knows what he can do when he's better," she explained. The day of the surgery, David drove Nicole and Tyler to the hospital at 5 in the morning. He'd told Nicole he'd just drop them off, but when they arrived, he parked the car and walked in with them. "You don't have to stay," Nicole said, though David could see the fear in her eyes. "I know, but I'm staying anyway." They checked Tyler in, and he changed into a hospital gown that made him look even younger and more vulnerable. The nurses were cheerful and efficient, explaining everything they were doing. When it was time to take him back to pre-op, Tyler hugged his mother tight. "I love you, Mom. Thank you for never giving up on me." Nicole held him like she never wanted to let go. "I love you more than anything in this world. I'll be right here when you wake up." And Tyler turned to David. "Thank you again, Mr. Carson, for everything. You're going to do great. Tyler, I'll see you on the other side." After they wheeled Tyler away, Nicole collapsed into a chair in the waiting room. David sat beside her, and they waited. 6 hours, Dr. Williams had said. 6 hours of not knowing. They barely talked. Nicole was too anxious to make conversation, and David understood. He got coffee, bought sandwiches that neither of them ate, and just stayed present. Around hour 4, Nicole finally spoke. "I've been thinking," she said quietly. "About what you said. About kindness rippling outward." David looked at her. "Your wife helped me when I was 18 and lost. I had nothing, no real direction, no money for college. She saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. She gave me a chance." Nicole's voice was thick with emotion. "And because of that, I got my education. I became a teacher. I've helped hundreds of kids over the years. I had Tyler and raised him to be kind and thoughtful. And then I met Lily. She adores you," David said. "And I adore her. But here's what I realized. If your wife hadn't helped me, I wouldn't have become who I am. I wouldn't have been there for Lily, and you wouldn't be here for Tyler. Nicole turned to look at him. That one act of kindness, 18 years ago, created this whole chain of events. It led to this moment right now. David felt his eyes burn. She'd be proud of you, of who you became. I hope so. And I hope I can teach Tyler to pay it forward too. To remember that when someone needs help, and you can give it, you do. Not because you expect something back, but because that's how we're supposed to live. Before David could respond, Dr. Williams walked into the waiting room. She was still in her surgical scrubs, pulling her mask down. She was smiling. He did beautifully, she announced. The repair went exactly as planned. His heart is going to be stronger than it's been in years. Nicole burst into tears. David felt his own relief wash over him so powerfully that he had to close his eyes for a moment. He's in recovery now, Dr. Williams continued. He'll be groggy for a while, but you can see him in about an hour. That hour felt longer than the entire 6-hour surgery. When they finally let Nicole in, David hung back, giving them privacy. But through the window, he could see Nicole holding Tyler's hand, crying and smiling at the same time. Tyler was pale and hooked up to monitors, but he was awake and alive and healing. The next week, David brought Lily to visit. She was nervous at first, shy around the older boy in the hospital bed. But Tyler was good with kids, patient like his mother. He thanked Lily for the card, which Nicole had taped to the wall where he could see it. "Your dad's pretty cool," Tyler told Lily. "You're lucky." Lily looked at her father and smiled. "Yeah, I know." 3 months later, Tyler came home from his follow-up appointment with incredible news. His heart had healed better than expected. He could start physical therapy and slowly work his way back to normal activities. 6 months after that, David stood in his backyard watching Tyler teach Lily how to shoot baskets. The boy had gained weight, had color in his cheeks, moved with the easy confidence of a healthy teenager. Nicole stood beside David, shaking her head in wonder. "Sometimes I can't believe this is real," she said. "That he's okay. That we're here." "Believe it," David said. "You fought for it. You earned it." "We earned it," Nicole corrected. "All of us together." David had been thinking about something for weeks now, and he finally found the courage to say it. "I've been working too much. For years, even before my wife got sick. I missed so much of Lily's early years because I was building a company, making money, chasing success." "You've built an incredible life," Nicole said. "But what's it for?" David asked. "All the success in the world doesn't matter if you're not sharing it with people you care about. These past few months, watching Tyler recover, seeing Lily happy, spending time with your family, that's when I feel like my life actually means something." Nicole smiled. "Your wife would say you're finally figuring it out." "Yeah," David laughed. "She probably would." That evening, they all had dinner together at David's house. It had become a regular thing. Lily and Tyler had become close. The sister and brother neither of them had. Nicole had finally quit her other 2 jobs and worked just for David, at a salary that let her breathe for the first time in years. And David had cut back his work hours, spending more time being present for the people who mattered. As they sat around the table, laughing and talking, David looked at the faces surrounding him. This wasn't the family he'd planned, but it was the family that life had given him, born out of loss and struggle, and unexpected. Kindness. Tyler was talking about trying out for the school basketball team in the fall. Lily was begging to go watch his games. Nicole was already worrying about him overdoing it, though she was smiling as she fussed. And David sat there feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Complete, whole, like all the broken pieces of his life had somehow fitted themselves together into something beautiful. You, he said suddenly. And everyone looked at him. All of you. For being exactly who you are. Lily climbed into his lap and hugged him. We're a family now, right, Daddy? David looked at Nicole, who had tears in her eyes. He looked at Tyler, who nodded with a grateful smile. Yeah, sweetheart, David said, holding his daughter close. We're a family now. And for the first time since his wife died, that word didn't hurt. It felt like hope. It felt like healing. It felt like home.